Sigmund Freud was born on May 6, 1856 in the small Moravian town of Freiburg, then part of the Austrian Empire, to Dalber in the Czech Republic. He was the first child of Jacob Freud, a wool merchant, and his much younger wife Amalia. Freud grew up in a large, complex family with half-brothers from his father's previous marriage. When economic difficulties struck, the family moved to Vienna, a city that would shape almost all of Freud's personal and professional life. Vienna in the late 19th century was a center of science, art, and intellectual debate, and the young Freud absorbed this atmosphere eagerly. From childhood he showed exceptional intelligence, excelling in languages and literature as well as science. Education and medical training. Freud entered the University of Vienna in 1873 to study medicine. At first he was more interested in biology and philosophy than in becoming a practicing doctor. He worked in the laboratory of the physiologist Ernst Bruck, where he conducted research on the nervous system of fish and eels. These early scientific experiences convinced him that human behavior had biological roots, yet he also remained fascinated by the mysteries of the mind. After receiving his medical degree in 1881, Freud trained at the Vienna General Hospital and later studied in Paris under the famous neurologist Jean-Martin Charcot. Charcot's demonstrations that hysteria could be treated through hypnosis deeply influenced Freud and turned his attention toward psychological rather than purely physical explanations of illness. Beginnings of psychoanalysis. Returning to Vienna, Freud opened a private practice specializing in nervous disorders. He collaborated with the physician Joseph Breuer, whose patient Anna O became a landmark case. Breuer discovered that when the patient talked freely about her memories and emotions, her symptoms improved. Freud developed this talking cure into a systematic method he called psychoanalysis. He gradually abandoned hypnosis and encouraged patients to engage in free association, speaking whatever came into their minds. Through this technique, Freud concluded that many psychological problems were caused by unconscious conflicts, often rooted in childhood experiences and repressed sexual or aggressive impulses. Major theories and writings. In 1900 Freud published his most famous book, The Interpretation of Dreams. He argued that dreams were the royal road to the unconscious and that they expressed hidden wishes in symbolic form. This work introduced concepts that became central to modern psychology: the unconscious mind, repression, and the analysis of symbols. In later books such as 3 Essays on the Theory of Sexuality, 1905, and The Ego and the ID, 1923, Freud proposed a model of personality divided into the ID, ego, and superego. He also described stages of psychosexual development and the controversial Oedipus complex, suggesting that early family relationships shape adult character. These ideas challenged Victorian morality and provoked strong resistance, yet they also attracted a circle of devoted followers. The psychoanalytic movement. By the first decade of the 20th century, Freud had gathered around him a group of young doctors and thinkers in Vienna, including Carl Jung, Alfred Adler, Otto Rank, and Sander Ferenczi. They met weekly to discuss cases and theories, forming the nucleus of the international psychoanalytic movement. Disagreements soon emerged. Adler rejected Freud's emphasis on sexuality and developed individual psychology, while Jung introduced spiritual and collective elements that Freud considered unscientific. Despite these conflicts, Freud continued to refine his method and trained analysts from many countries. Psychoanalysis spread to Germany, Britain, and the United States, influencing psychiatry, literature, education, and the arts. Personal life and character. Freud married Martha Bernays in 1886, and the couple had 6 children, among them Anna Freud, who later became an important psychoanalyst herself. Friends described Freud as disciplined, ambitious, and intensely devoted to his work. He followed a strict daily routine of seeing patients, writing, and taking long walks. Freud loved classical antiquity and collected Greek and Roman statues, which filled his study. Although he presented himself as a rational scientist, he was also imaginative and deeply interested in mythology, religion, and culture. His correspondence reveals a man capable of warmth and humor but also stubborn and sensitive to criticism. Later years in exile. From the 1920s, Freud's health declined due to cancer of the jaw, caused by his lifelong habit of smoking cigars. He underwent more than 30 painful operations yet continued to write influential books such as Civilization and Its Discontents, 1930, where he examined the tension between human instincts and social order. The rise of Nazism brought new dangers. As a Jew in Austria, Freud's family was threatened after the German annexation of 1938. With the help of friends and international supporters, he fled to London, where he spent the final year of his life. Despite illness, he received visitors and remained intellectually active. Death and legacy. Sigmund Freud died in London on September 23, 1939. His ideas transformed the understanding of the human mind. Although many of his specific theories have been criticized or revised, his central insight that unconscious processes influence thoughts and behavior remains fundamental to psychology and psychotherapy. Freud introduced a new way of listening to human suffering and gave language to inner conflicts, dreams, and desires. Beyond medicine, his influence reached literature, film, anthropology, and everyday conversation. Terms like Freudian slip and defense mechanism entered common speech. Overall significance. Freud's life was a journey from 19th-century science to a revolutionary vision of human nature. He combined rigorous observation with bold imagination, creating a method that treated the patient as a storyteller rather than a machine. Whether admired or disputed, Freud changed how modern culture thinks about childhood, sexuality, memory, and identity. His biography reflects both the brilliance and the controversy of a thinker who dared to explore the hidden depths of the self.